buddy. Welcome to, what are we going to call this? A Saxon house build?
Episode 1.
Episode 1?
Yeah,
Part
whatever
one.
you want to call it.
Welcome to the Anglo-Saxon pit house. I'm going to call it a pit house. Armpit house. Part 1. We're out in the woods and we're in a different woodland for this one. We are actually sat at what is the pallet cabin behind us.
Yeah.
We'll probably show you a little bit about that later, but most of you will know this is our little shed cabin basically that we built in the woods, completely from pallet wood.
Exactly.
Reclaimed pallet wood, which we salvaged for free with permission and recycled all the nails. It was quite painful to recycle those nails, but we built it and it's got a little wood stove in and things like that. It's great. And actually it's been raining today. I don't know if you saw earlier when we were cooking.
Yeah. Sleet.
It was like, yeah, sleet and hail. So it was really handy to have this little outpost kind of cabin to jump in just while it rained and the food was cooking away. So the plan for what we're doing here, this project, this is going to be focused on a kind of adaptation, or an Anglo-Saxon style. We're not going to say it's historically correct because it's not going to be historically correct, but it's going to be some kind of Anglo-Saxon pit house. Now traditionally I believe they built their houses, they built a pit, 1.5, maybe 2, maybe even 3 feet deep, a big pit. We got a lot of digging to do.
It's a lot of shoveling,
yeah.
a lot.
And then they would build basically like almost a similar structure which we did with the Viking house, just an A-frame house-like structure over the top. They used kind of shakes, cedar shakes, or straw. Most of them use thatching really for that kind of era. But we're going to try and use as many resources as we can in this woodland, and if we need to outsource any resources, we'll try and get them in. But we're just going to have fun. This is about us having fun, isn't it?
It's time together. We've been here all day. All day, just salvaging wood, sawing a huge tree that had gone down. We sawed that through with the vintage saw. It has to be a 100-year-old saw.
Crosscut saw.
Crosscut saw, yeah. Got some weird teeth on it actually. And we asked on another film before, you know, what they were for. They were different shape, and I think they called them clearing teeth.
There's like a large horizontal piece, and it doesn't cut really, does it?
Yeah,
it just
one
clears
misses
the wood.
the cut, and that's to clear the cutout for the next blade to come through.
But we were
interesting.
saying like how tough it is using some that saw compared to what we've been using recently in the Viking build with Dustin.
Yeah.
It's a hard saw to use, and you can see how they dug pits. Because we were bending over like this and it kind of hurts your back, but you can see how years ago they dug a pit and had one person at the bottom of the pit with the big saw, one end, and one person at the top. And that's how you you had the top dog, the saying top dog, and the underdog was the poor guy underneath.
Yeah, I
who
never
got
knew
all
that.
the sawdust on his head. So that's traditionally where it came from.
Got to be.
But yeah, so we enjoyed using, we're going to use hand tools for this build. We're not going to use power tools, just all hand tools. And we're going to try and use vintage or traditional tools where we can. Obviously there's a safety factor involved, but we're going to try and use some kind of vintage and old school tools as well as the more modern, newer tools. We'll talk you through what we're building in a minute, but if you're asking why are we doing this, it is just because we're a father and son that want to spend a bit of time in the woods, cook up some food and basically just have a laugh and learn, really, isn't it?
That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's an experimentation. And, you know, you can look at different views of everything. It's like if you had sort of pack or tribe situation, there'd be two people that think that they know, oh yeah, do it this way, and then somebody pipes up and said, well, I think, what about if you do it that way? And I'll tell you how I used to do this years ago when I did property, not that many years ago, did my own properties up. There were 2 or 3 old guys, 2 of the older guys, older than me, they were in their 70s. It turned out both were involved in the building industry, and the things they said that came out with to make life easy. Graham, why are you doing the plasterboard sheets of 8x4 on your own and nailing it to the ceiling? I said, well, I'm having trouble. Yeah, they said you would do. You've got to use a dead man. So what's a dead man? And that's a T-piece of wood. All the plasterers and builders know what I'm talking about. A T-piece of wood, and you jam one end up against the ceiling, and then you push the other piece up, and you can be able to tack it, and the dead man would be holding the other end up so you tacked it. And you think,
it's clever, isn't it?
Why did it take me 60 years to not know that?
But that's how you get it. As you get older, you get more experience from mistakes you've made, and just you kind of make things easier for yourself.
Well,
like we're bending down.
Yeah.
Well, then we went and got the Sawhorse, which we built here, and we were like, why didn't we use this in the first place?
Exactly.
So what we're doing as well, just for this episode, this part 1, the reason there's not much building of the actual house is because we're taking a bit more time with this. We are actually building some workstations. Which we'll talk through, which is going to help us in doing the actual Saxon house build. With the Viking house, we just went straight into it with Dustin, didn't we?
Yeah.
Straight into it, let's build. And then it just appeared, and it was like, wow, we built this. But this is going to, have a little bit more planning, and we'll try and do it a little bit more specifically, a bit more accurately. But so we're having fun.
What was the reason behind going down in the ground? What's that reason that they Anglo-Saxons?
I'm not actually sure. I've done a bit of research. I've not done loads of research. Perhaps you guys know why did the Saxons build the pit down? My theory, this is just a complete theory, is maybe it retains the heat more.
Yeah, I did think that with the ground.
Because they didn't have fire pits in their houses, I don't think, like the Vikings. Because their houses were much smaller than Vikings, I think the Anglo-Saxons dug down so that it kept that insulation in there a lot more, protected from the elements. There was no wind that could come in, really, because they were dug down. So maybe that's why they dug a pit. I don't know. I'm going to have to do a bit more research about it. Maybe you guys can help. If you know anything about the Anglo-Saxons and their kind of buildings, please let me know in the description below. That'd be quite handy. And any tips you want to give us now for the future of the build, we're very great. We'd be very grateful, because we're just going to crack on and see what happens.
And you've already built pretty much over there. We had a go at building.
We'll talk through that. I'm going to call it a bark peeling station, I guess. We'll talk through it now. Let's take you over and we'll have a quick talk through. So this essentially is the first workstation at the Saxon house. What we've got is pine. Now, this is, if you look around me behind, it's all pine. It's all Scots pine trees. There's the odd silver birch and mature oak and beech, and actually 1 or 2 chestnut trees. But other than that, it is all Scots pine trees, soft wood. Actually not very good for building these kind of things, but this is what we've got around us. This is what we're going to do. This is private land. I'm on private land here. So, I've got permission to kind of do all this. That woodland there is actually a completely different woodland. That's the boundary. You can see the boundary there to the other land. That's lovely mature beech over there. And chestnut, which is great for building these sort of things. But we're working with Scots pine today. So we took the bark off the Scots pine trees just to help preserve it a little bit more. We could have burnt the ends like we did in the Viking house, but we decided not to, purely because of time reasons. And essentially it kind of looks like a horse hurdle or a gate, but this is a bark peeling station. And all it is there's a notch up here, which, if I do a demonstration, let's say I wanted to take the bark off this log, then that notch goes there. Now, I've not finished it. Up at this end, I'm going to create a semicircular bowl, okay? And then this log can sit in that bowl. I'll show it to you later. And then I can work away with my draw knife, peeling off the bark, nice and easily. And look at this height. It's literally chest height. There's no bending over. When I was on the Sawhorse behind me, I was bending over. This is a real nice workable height. So that is going to be for our rafters when we build the rafters for the Saxon house and anything else that we need to peel bark off. This is the bark peeling station. This is the Sawhorse. Now, we didn't build this in this episode. This was built during the Bushcraft Camp Update series, which I did. And I don't know, this probably is 4 years old, 5 years old maybe. We've added the extra X over here so that if we have any short pieces of wood, we can just saw them like that. But this is just going to be a temporary Sawhorse for the time being. We may build a better one later on, but it's going to do us okay. I'd say it is a little bit low. Maybe needs to come up a bit, but that's pretty good. It's easy and nice and portable. We can lift it, carry it. This is all going to be our workstation. I'll show you the house in a minute.
So when we cut the big old tree there, the big fall down that we had to clear to make this area, you know, open for us, we decided to use a piece of that and whack it down in the ground. It's on gravel, it's on hard gravel stones. Pack it in around the outside, you know, with a sledgehammer, and it's a nice flat surface, ideal for chopping up. This one, we just used the draw knife to flatten off a little bit more. We had used this one before, and it's really solid piece of wood. I think this was in one of Mike's early Bushcraft.
Yeah,
what was the big one?
I don't know what it was. That's probably about Bushcraft Camp Update 10 or something.
I'd say that's 4 years,
4 years
or 5
again,
years
yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Still nice and solid. So why not utilise it again? We're recycling another piece.
So how does that work, this one?
Well, this one, you can balance pieces of wood up against it like this.
It's like a kindling station.
It's almost a kindling station, you know, rather than have it horizontal and split it like this, and rather than holding it, tapping it and losing your fingers, this way you can balance something, start the first cut there, you can cut all the way along here, you can lay them along there and split them as well if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And to stop that rolling away, these have been sledgehammered in, cut a couple of stakes, sledgehammer those in, and that pinches up against this one. It goes down about, not quite 2 feet, about 18 inches, so that is rock solid. So there's our wood cutting station, and if you want to do trimming, feather sticks, anything like that, it's just nice to have something to work with.
So the first thing we needed to do, and it's the same with all the shelters that I've built, is finding a good site. We have to be, in a dense woodland like this, we have to be aware of any widowmakers or trees that are going to fall down. And you can see it's a very dense woodland. There are trees down everywhere, and there's trees leaning over everywhere. So we tried to choose a space that was clear above. And if you look where we're going to start building the house there, if you look above, there's a nice clearing. So that's quite important. We found when you're obviously trying to build a shelter or a semi-permanent structure or even a permanent structure, location, the ground, the soil type, just the area, the geography and everything like that. You have to be able to consider that the aspect where it's facing, north, south. This is pretty much going to be, the door's going to be this side, so it's going to be almost facing southwest, kind of. But yeah, so should get some nice sunsets. just finished off creating this kind of stop sort of log here, and essentially you get a long horizontal piece that will slot in at this end here and also rest in the V-notch which I cut earlier at the other end, and then that's going to allow me to use the draw knife, and every time I pull towards me this is going to keep getting pushed into here, so I didn't have to use my hips or my body, you know, to hold it, or like a footrest on a shaving horse. It's a stand-up job, hits against there. Every time I pull with the draw knife, it's just going to make life a lot easier, hopefully. So let's give it a try. But it's safe to say this is working an absolute treat. This little shaving peeling station, bark peeling station. Really nice height to be able to work from. Nice that I don't have to bend over. And it's just making that life a little bit more easy. A little bit easier, should I say. You can just rotate the log, it stays at the back in there, that's where all the pressure's getting pushed back. Just so easy. Don't know why I didn't do this earlier. This is going to be how we'll be doing all the rafters for the Anglo-Saxon house. We will be using this for those rafters, perhaps the ridge pole, depending on how big the ridge pole is going to be, how big we want it to be. We may well use this or make another station for slightly larger logs. Obviously this wouldn't work as well if you were doing log cabin style logs, the size of those, the diameter of the big ones, because you'd need a much bigger one that end to cut the scoop out of. But for your rafters and anything else, it's pretty versatile, I'd say. Even obviously thinner sticks it could do, but this is just ideal. So you can see as I'm drawing towards me like this, that's putting all that pressure towards there, towards that kind of stop log at the back. So the log's not going to slide off of this system, of this support system, and put all that pressure back into that log at the end, which is buried about 18 inches, nearly probably 20 inches into the ground, to be fair. But we could have burnt the ends of that other log to preserve it, but we thought we'd just go with this and see how we do. And it's working a treat. Really pleased with this. Really pleased with it. And I can come further down like this, start working towards the back, which obviously is even more control because I'm then not at an angle, I'm directly behind the log, which is much easier I found when you're using a draw knife to be directly behind it, not to the side. You tend to be able to get much more control over the bevel. And I'm not an experienced person at doing this, this is just talking from how I've done it and what's worked for me. Being able to draw straight towards you instead of to the side, you can just control that bevel and you have a lot more power as well. But where I was earlier on the Sawhorse, this was digging into my hips, this end, but now I can just lean into it and it's not digging into me at all. Super pleased with that. This is going to be a fun build, I'm looking forward to it. Much more control with this bark peeling station. Going to build a few more workstations as well, so be sure to subscribe, guys. I hope you're going to enjoy this project. It's going to be mixed in amongst other camping projects as well. Camping projects? Camping trips, for those guys that like the old wild camping stuff. But subscribe, don't want to miss this. It's going to be fun. So we're going to call it a day for part 1 of the Saxon house build. Be sure to subscribe to Dad's channel, TA Fishing. And you actually saw we were in the pallet cabin earlier trying to get out of the rain. Dad's been in there recently, for those wondering, because I've not done some videos in there for a while. Dad has been in there and done a few kind of tackle videos,
Yeah,
haven't you?
tackle tips. You're looking at some bits and pieces of tackle. Look on the site, and we're trying to get 3 or 4 films up using the old stove in there.
Yeah,
It's lovely.
It's
and warm.
good. It's very handy, and it heats up so quick in that little pallet cabin,
It's
doesn't it?
unbelievable. That's my place. That's my home.
But yeah, we're enjoying it. Make sure you subscribe to Dad's channel, TA Fishing, for weekly videos, not just fishing related, but also outdoor related like this as well. He's going to hopefully be helping me. This is gonna, like I say, this is going to be a father and son project. We're going to do some fun things. We're not just going to build a Saxon house, like I say. We'll do a few other workstations as well. And I think the next job, Dad's going to be pit digging. Sleeping today. But we are currently middle of March, and we've had wind for what, a week? A solid
2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks.
I mean, like 60, 50, 60 mile an hour gusts, like strong wind solidly for a week. This is the first day in 7 days that we've not had strong wind.
Yeah, still cool with that sleet and a little dusting of icy bits that came down earlier when we were cooking. It's still cold.
It is pretty cold, isn't it?
So it'll change, it'll come.
Hopefully. So we're probably unlike the Viking house where I just went bang, 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 bang and put up loads of Viking house videos, I'm probably going to break the Saxon series up with other mixed in camping videos, bushcraft videos, coastal camping, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, please subscribe if you would like to follow us on this adventure. I appreciate all your views, all your comments, and yeah, we will see you guys in part 2.